Just coming to a party where they're playing Bollywood music and there's other gay people, like, that just like blew my mind.
As someone who's lived here for several years, I've really been able to build a sense of home and community through queer and trans nightlife. And I've also realized that these spaces of celebration and joy are just as important to our survival as showing up at the next protest or rally. And so for this episode in our series, we decided to go to the West Coast, where some of the first queer and trans Asian Pacific Islander parties started popping up.
Hi, nice to meet you, Patrick. This is my LGBTQ stairwell. I have a collage of Jaded club cards that I made. I did go to Jaded once or twice, and to be honest, I actually didn't really have fun. I was just coming out at that time. I still had predominantly white friends, and Jaded was a space where I was starting to explore all the intersectional identities that I had between, being Asian American and queer and being young and trying to fit into the world and going to clubs and exploring not just my sexual orientation, but just sexuality in general. It's really important for our own community to create events for ourselves because that's where we're going to feel the most sense of belonging.
For our next stop, we flew to Atlanta to find out more about when LGBT nightlife spaces can go incredibly wrong.
So nightlife and parties are all real critical spaces where we get to be authentically ourselves, name our desires, and live them out into the world in a really powerful way. So the Hotlanta River Expo was a gay male circuit party. The theme was Year of the Dragon. Each of the parties had really reductive names, like there was a fried rice party and a tsunami party and a China doll party. It was really awful. So once I decided to organize the ad hoc committee for racial justice, the goals were really to change the advertising. They agreed to this and then totally backtracked. And we were actually forcibly escorted by hotel security out of the event. And the truth is on that campaign, the Asian American gay men were not there at all. Femmes run our movements, whether it's the LGBT movement, whether it's Asian Pacific Islander American movement. We're in charge for a reason. We do the work. We do the work in a very real way.
What gives me hope, though, is the growing number of queer and trans API nightlife spaces that are cropping up today, all across the country. So we made plans to talk to current nightlife organizers to find out more about their parties and why they're so important.
My name is Masala Sapphire. I'm the Bollywood beauty of Chicago. We are getting ready tonight for J-Ho, the queer Bollywood dance party hosted by Tricone Chicago. When I first came out, J-Ho was not something that was around, and once I did find it, it was like, this is what's been missing in my life. Yes, there are gay bars out there. It wasn't the same as being with queer South Asians, because they understood the things that I was going through, because they were going through the same things as me. I know the kids probably just take this as another thing, but I hope that they realize that this is something very special and that not everyone gets to partake in this.
Part of being queer in 2018 is living in the reality of a post-Pulse nightclub shooting world, one in which even nightlife spaces that are meant to be carefree and liberating are laced with the possibility of danger and violence. But living with that niggling fear, that's also not new for LGBT people. We decided to meet up with Steve Liu, an HIV/AIDS activist who did early organizing work in nightlife spaces and beyond.
I had tested positive for HIV in '86. I moved up to San Francisco, kind of really was seeking out health resources for myself, but also got connected to a lot of the gay men in East Asian community who were just starting to organize at that time. The group was the Gay Asian Pacific Alliance. So there was a committee that was formed that focused a lot on how to bring safer sex education into not just the Asian community, but particularly focused on gay and bisexual men. We would do outreach at some of the gay clubs in sort of public sex sites, figure out ways to distribute condoms that people wouldn't see it as stigmatized. In this period of time, it's really important that we have organizations, that we actually have places where people can meet around their identities face to face and actually be with other people.
It turns out that Steve's housemate, Prescott Chow, was one of the organizers of Jaded back in the 90s. Through that connection, we reached out to the core Jaded group and asked if they'd be open to having a reunion.
Prior to Jaded, one of the things that we had talked about doing was how do we get the men and women to, interact more.
Pam's idea was like, why don't we just have a club? And so that kind of started it. That co-gender idea was actually blooming at the time. When you approached me, I was like, oh my gosh, that's totally a great idea. And because it has been missing.
I think it was just kind of the right time, the right moment, the right opportunities.
Right.
In the men's community at that time, the only quote gay Asian bars were run by non-Asian folks. It just didn't feel like a space that was for queer APIs, and so that's something that we wanted to create for ourselves.
Yeah.
The first Jaded was September '97.
Well, you definitely had, a lot of potential to meet, for dates. So that was, I think
definitely.
that was a benefit for us probably. I think we did try to do a lot of prevention because like we would have condoms or whatever.
We have a safer sex demo. Remember API Wellness?
In the '90s, what that gathering was, in and of itself, was also a political thing. Was also a momentous thing.
Well, I think what you're saying was a statement.
Yeah.
The people that you're involved in the group is very important. There was a lot more that went into it, and so the friendships, the be able to be out there and learn about how things work, that is something for me I treasure.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.